I said it would happen eventually. They have now banned Martin Luther King Jr. They have banned Juneteenth. All right, here it is.
Guys, I gotta tell you, man, TYT's #1 race hustler, probably YouTube, the internet's #1 race hustler. He just won't quit, bruh. He just won't quit. This is what happens. Stories like this, bullshit like this, and that's what I'm calling it. Because I'm actually pissed off, right? That these people would even run this, okay? This type of stuff they come up with when you don't have anything, right? When you want to prove that racism in this country is so systemic, okay? It's everywhere. Where you pull bullshit stories like this out of your ass and you present it as if it's factual without adding the proper context to the story to explain to viewers exactly what is going on as Virginia revises their history curriculum for their students. Now, the title of this video from Rashad Richey is Governor Youngkin pushes racist curriculum that erases MLK. And in this video, he is going to argue that Glenn Youngkin and Republicans in Virginia are trying to erase MLK. They're trying to stop teaching about MLK in schools. Now, the article where he got this load of crap from is from News One. And in this same article, they accuse Glenn Youngkin of having white supremacists at, I think, one of his rallies or something like that. You guys remember the picture of the people who clearly were fake, right, plants? It was like, what, some random dudes, I think one of the dudes might have been black actually, holding tiki torches, and the liberal media said that they were white supremacists. Clearly plants, right? So again, this organization, this news network is not credible, okay? But yet he ran with this story that Glenn Youngkin is trying to erase MLK from the teaching curriculum. And this story can be easily debunked with a simple Google search, but this guy doesn't think that his audience is actually smart enough to Google this story, that they're just going to go along with whatever he says because he has a PhD by his name. But, I mean, he's just flat out lying, right? I mean, it's just a flat out lie, okay? So I want to break this down. But before I get into this, I just want to go ahead and show you guys that what Rashad Richey is saying here is just wrong, right? I'm going to show you the proof that he's wrong before he gets into it, just so we can see how silly he sounds. This is the standards, okay, that they are revising here. Again, these are revisions that are being made, right? So it's not final. Clearly, it includes Martin Luther King Jr. right here, okay? Clearly, it's teaching about all this stuff. Emmett Till's in here. All the stuff that the woke revolutionaries want is in here, right? Civil rights movement, all this stuff, Malcolm X, Rosa Parks, all this stuff is in here. It's clearly in here, right? It's just so funny. It's laughable, easily disprovable. None of these people actually read, okay? They just flat out lie. But I've actually read the document because I learned from my mistakes. And one of the mistakes that I've learned from doing this job is that when you see a headline that's too good to be true, that means that it probably is too good to be true, and that you should look thoroughly into the story and into the claims and read the original documentation before you actually go along with a story, okay? Read the original documentation. I had to do that for Stacey Abrams, right? When she was suing over her voter suppression conspiracy, right? In which she was making a specific claim about a practice in Georgia saying that it violated the Voting Rights Act under a certain standard, right? And I literally had to go and read the document, and it said that it did not violate that standard. It literally was the exact opposite claim than what Stacey Abrams was making on TV. Okay, so in this case, I had to do the same thing because, again, the claim was just so ridiculous. I was like, let me actually go to the documentation and read it. Lo and behold, this right here, this part right here, I'm not going to open up the whole document, but I went through the document, and this is in the kindergarten section. This came out on the 10th, November the 10th. Rashad Richey's video came out yesterday. Okay, so this has been out for, what, 18 whole days? Where they have MLK Jr. Day, Martin Luther King Jr. Day, clearly listed as a holiday that would be taught to kindergartners. But Rashad Richey is going to claim that the Republicans are trying to erase MLK from K through 5 education.
I said it would happen eventually. They have now banned Martin Luther King Jr. They have banned Juneteenth. All right, here it is. The governor of Virginia has decided to do these things. Let's put his picture up full mass, and I'm going to give you the background as to how we got here. So you're looking at Glenn Youngkin. He's the governor of Virginia. He is promoting a racist K-5 curriculum that leaves out Martin Luther King Jr. It leaves out slavery. So according to the governor and those that support this move, MLK is too controversial for these students to learn. This Republican governor released a new draft policy to revise the requirements for teachers of history inside of Virginia classrooms. Per News One, the reason for the overhaul is to restore excellence, curiosity, and excitement around teaching and learning history. That's the spin. Governor Youngkin's actions are not surprising. Immediately after taking office in January, the first two orders he signed banned critical race theory, which by the way, never was taught in K-12 education, and mask mandates. One Twitter user's reaction was, "It starts." There you see it. In the 53-page document, policies outline what and when certain subjects are taught to Virginia students. Many difficult topics, such as lynching, would not be taught at all until the 6th grade. And Christopher Columbus's role in the slave trade can only be taught in the 11th grade and beyond. Let's put up a picture of James Fetterman. Okay, he's the president of the Virginia Education Association. James says, and I quote, "It's just another attack on trying to make history what they want it to be." Mr. Fetterman, I agree with you 100%. He also said, there is also a removal of content of Martin Luther King Jr. from the K-5 standards. No mention of Juneteenth. Removal of content of LGBTQ plus histories. The resulting standards right now are racist. They are factually incorrect. They are not age appropriate and they reflect explicit political bias.
Yeah, so again, I'm not sure why LGBTQ plus history should be taught in school. I'm not sure why that should be taught. But you know how they lump that in and they say, oh, that's all racist? Okay, no mention of Juneteenth. I'm not sure exactly, again, what about Juneteenth should be taught, okay? I'm just saying. But they claim that the main claim here, the central claim is that they're removing Martin Luther King Jr. from K-12, right? They're not gonna learn about Martin Luther King Jr. I want y'all to understand that.
James Fetterman, president of the Virginia Education Association. In accordance with the law, every 7 years, Virginia must revise its history and social science standards, okay? In 2015, the year of the last update, the former governor recommended subjects such as gender equity and renewable energy. Those recommendations were ultimately scrapped, according to 13 News. And critics of the now governor, Youngkin's new proposal are hoping his policy changes get the same treatment. Here is what we know. The Board of Education, which was originally scheduled to vote on the governor's new guidelines in August, is set to review the draft policy by Thursday. After that, the State Board of Education will hold public engagement sessions, but the actual vote is not expected until sometime next year. So what's happening?
Yeah, so what's happening here, right? Let's actually tell you the truth, okay? Let's jump over here to this Fox News article. Again, a quick, easy Google search is gonna debunk basically 90% of the things that this man said, including the main claim that Glenn Youngkin is trying to erase MLK, right? Let's just read here. Let's just read. The office of Virginia Republican Governor Glenn Youngkin pushed back on claims from Democrats that the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. would be dropped in the state's revised education standards. Youngkin's draft revised 2022 history and social science education standards are currently in front of the Virginia Board of Education as a first review item receiving public comment. However, that has not stopped Democrats from pushing a narrative that Republican governor is trying to nix educating students about King's works. Documents obtained by Fox News Digital show the revised education standards draft, including educating students in kindergarten through fifth grade about all holidays, including Martin Luther King Jr. Day. I wonder why Rashad Richey left that out, right? I wonder why he didn't mention that in his video. Maybe because it doesn't fit the narrative. Let's read more here. The documents also noted the initial draft listed examples of holidays, but did not include the civil rights leader holiday enumerated as an example, and the current draft standards before the Virginia Board of Education have been updated with the holiday included as an enumerated example. Okay, so what they're saying here is that, well, the initial draft, which I believe that's what Rashad Richey was talking about, but again, he didn't mention that there was a revised version of the draft that does mention the MLK holiday, but it's irrelevant because it was just an example. Here an example of the holidays that will be covered. However, it is assumed that all holidays will be covered, okay? We're about to prove it. The holiday would be taught regardless of it being an enumerated example under the draft education standards, according to one of the documents. Additionally, the document said the civil rights curriculum for Virginia was expanded under the new standards to include other notable leaders from the state, as well as increased depth in coverage of King's legacy itself. So not only is Glenn Youngkin not erasing MLK, he's actually covering MLK more than what they were doing before. Again, Rashad Richey, for whatever reason, doesn't mention that, right? Doesn't talk about that. Okay, fine, whatever. The documents also noted that former Virginia Governor Ralph Norman's administration did not include any reference to King in their K-5 education standards aside from educating students about the holiday. Oh, wait, hold on. So when the Democrat was governor, it did not mention any reference to Martin Luther King in their K-5 education standards outside of the holiday. So let's read more here. Macaulay Porter, a spokesperson for Youngkin, blasted the Democrats' claims about Youngkin striking Martin Luther King Jr. Day from the state curriculum when Fox News Digital reached out for comment. She took aim at the previous administration over their significant errors in their education standards, such as not including historical references to hate groups like the Ku Klux Klan. Again, these are the same people that were boohoo-whining and complaining when they said that Republicans didn't want to teach kids about the Ku Klux Klan. Seems like Democrats in Virginia didn't want to do that either, right? The August 2022 draft policies developed under the previous administration had significant errors in their standards, including omitting key historical references to hate groups like the Ku Klux Klan and Senator Hiram Revels of Mississippi, the first African-American to serve in Congress, and more, which have been incorporated into the new draft. Porter said, wait. So again, not only is it a lie that Republicans are trying to not teach kids about Martin Luther King, but Republicans are actually going further to teach more about civil rights and include more information about civil rights and hate groups like the Ku Klux Klan than the Democrats did. Again, Rashad Richey's video came out yesterday, right? This article came out on the 18th, more than 10 days ago. All this information was out there that Rashad Richey conveniently left out because, again, he's trying to push a narrative that it's not based on any facts, right? He really wants you to believe that Virginia is trying to get rid of Martin Luther King Jr. Day. Again, it's incredible how these people just lie and they get away with it. Despite various claims to the contrary, Martin Luther King Jr. Day is included in revised standards, and in fact, they have expanded the depth of content required on the legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., Youngkin spokesperson continued. Through public comment, review, and input from Virginia state and national historians and various community organizations since January 2021, the draft standards are being molded to ensure our students learn all our history, the good and the bad. The draft history standards are in the initial stages of the Board of Education review process and will continue to undergo revisions informed by public engagement sessions and board hearings. She added This process is focused on ensuring Virginia has the best history standards and curriculum for our students. Yeah, so I want y'all to understand this conspiracy theory from the Democrats, it all came from the fact that they did not list MLK Day as an example of an enumerated holiday that will be talked about, even though it was implied that all holidays would be discussed. And from there, they concocted the theory that Glenn Youngkin is trying to erase Martin Luther King Day from the history books. Again, this is how desperate the left is, man. It really is sad that they lie like this. And again, people like Rashad Richey, who have a PhD by his name, he engages in this type of lies and deception that really is beneath him. It really is. Again, the race hustle never stops. Let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.